It's one we call up, is it? That'd take a while. And this is how you come down. Another blizzard day. It's barfing down. I'm underneath this one little overhang I've got on one side of the shop. Beats the shit out of having echoes in the shop, right? Many mentions today. You know, in closing on yesterday's video, I made mention about the quality of the demeanor, the intelligence, and the kindness of the people that are here, contributing and hanging out on the channel. Because when people have like, oh, there goes Double Dog. Yeah, I'm right here. Don't hit that tripod. What are you doing? Come here. Come here. Say hi to everybody. Show them how you've grown 50 pounds in 24 hours. Hey, there she is. The future bear chaser. Right? Loving the shit out of the snow, bouncing around like a typical kid would. Look at this thing. Look at her. You are a pork chop. Yeah. Great big fat pork chop. Pork chop. Anyways, there she is. Okay, beat it. Don't hit that tripod. Now, it's fine. I'm quite certain the majority of people here, including myself, the topics that are delivered to the mainstream audiences are of absolute no concern or use. Right? It's just a proven, one thing I've finally realized, I haven't really looked into it, is it's just a proven fact. When everyone is treated with respect, and there's no concern about what turns you on, what color you are, or what you identify. I even hate saying that, identify as. Bugs the shit out of me. Things happen. And kindness dominates everything. Respect, kindness dominates. It's amazing, isn't it? But it shows exactly what the tools are that are being used against society today. It's almost like I've said previously, like some prick is sitting in a little room with a few other evil little lifeless techies with a little joystick, and they're making side bets on what they can get everybody to fight about today. They probably have side bets about it and laugh their faces off, especially when it comes to, like, what's another one? As an easy example, society, the evil manipulators actually have human beings arguing whether or not a man is a man and if a man can make a baby. Good God. Anyways, I'm not going to be going down that road. I'm just saying as an example of when you eliminate those topics that are being used as basically weapons against society, keeping us all freaking out to lunch. This is what you end up with. You end up with absolute kindness and respect across the board and no concern for bullshit. Right? Now, how do we make this spread? I guess we're making it spread anyways. And I got a combined 10 million views in a month not too long ago. So I guess we're making progress. And then another thing I was thinking about too is the amount of people that I've actually skidded and blocked on this channel. It's fairly substantial. In the past I had it, still today, I still have no tolerance for douchebags. And but I'm starting to wonder if possibly that may be the wrong thing to do. I don't know, because if somebody is that weak between the ears, it's to the point that they just don't even make sense for lashing out in anger and rage nonstop, which they've been conditioned to. Well, how do you save their ass? How do you show them another way? Because I think that possibly just punting them over to the curb definitely isn't helping. I don't know. Thoughts? Maybe you can drop in the comment section below. Talk about it amongst yourselves. I don't know. Is that the right thing to do? Is snubbing mentally challenged people from a good route of conducting yourself and thinking and respecting people, being kind? Because that's basically what you do when you block them, right? Is you chop them off from the access to the good, solid, honest people. And then what are they left with? They're left with themselves and their own kind. And, I don't know. Something to think about, right? Are we feeding the other side and giving them more members, ultimately? Or we should possibly be maybe having more patience and kindness and... I don't know. But I'll admit it is fun to punch a douchebag in the face. I have a twisted sense of humor too, you guys, so if I haven't picked up on that yet. Anyway, that's my little battle for this morning. Now, got some people to be heard. Another quick mention I was going to make. I've been in contact with some people, some very knowledge-filled people. Again, thank God. And I was also talking to Gary McKinnon. You can look up his YouTube channel. It's under his name with his photo on it for a thumbnail. If you're not sure who he is, Google up the name, Gary McKinnon. And we're talking about, just making mention of how some people have had, an interest in UFOs, and then they deplete that interest, and then they move on to Sasquatch, and they've seen enough of that, and then they move on. And one common denominator I've noticed is the people who are very knowledgeable, very interested and done their digging. A lot of people who aren't connected in any way have reported to me that their focus is now on the bright lights, the orbs, the bright lights that are being witnessed in the forests and in weird places. And it's interesting to me that all of these people who are on a level of obtained knowledge, which is far greater than my level, they've all eventually slid over to focusing on the bright lights. How interesting is that, right? And like I said as well, as an example, Dave Plattis, this Dave Plattis knows more about the Sasquatch topic than I believe anybody to date, possibly. And I watch him, and his focus has gone somewhere else, right? I like to watch the people who have dedicated more time than I have to really thoroughly investigating some topics and where they end up later on once their knowledge level has obtained a certain plateau. Here comes Devil Dog. I gotta watch the tripod. She's like bounding over here like a bull in a china shop. There she goes. Anyways, we've got to get some voices heard. It's enough of my battle. Something to think about and point out to you guys, all right? That the people who are absolutely filled with knowledge all seem to be gravitating towards the same topic on their own, which is the bright lights. Small and various sizes, the bright lights. Anyways, here we go. Let's listen to some people. All right, hold on. I got to get that dog inside. I'm not going to be able to relax. And we do have big cats running around here. There's a couple of bears still out. Not that a bear's going to grab her, but she's a prime target for a big cat. And that would kind of suck to watch her bounding off into the timberline in the mouth of a big cat, and I don't have a gun with me or anything, so we'll send her into Mama Bear in the house while I do this. Man, I'm so far behind. I got shit piles of people pressuring me at the same time, which ends up in them getting ignored because I am priority right now and shit I got to do. And there's nothing I can do about it. I've got so much in it. God, I got my First Nation superhero ladies are both in the frickin' hospital. It's so frustrating. So if anybody can throw out a prayer for them, some goodwill, it'd be much appreciated. It frustrates the living shit out of me because I can't do anything. I can't help them. Another thing, I have to get in contact with them as well since I've been back and see what the hell's going on. Anyway, I'm on a little rant of being frustrated with no time. Now listen to this. This is the title, Found in Your Video. Hello Steve, love your channel. Keep up the great work. I comment on one of your recent videos where I thought I could very clearly see something in the forest when you mentioned a smell and hearing a noise behind you. And this is what I saw at 5:06 on your vid when you're panning the camera around. I thought your viewers may find it interesting. It looks more like a shirtless man wearing some type of mask other than a Sasquatch. Very odd. Could just be a stump or debris. Who knows? Yeah, I don't know, man. I haven't a clue. I get a lot of these. I'll share it with the people. Thanks for sending that in. Oh, again, great work. Stay safe out there, man. You're one of a kind. Thanks, Josh. Okay, thanks, Josh. You probably already know this, but I mean, I get shit piles of emails from people who send screenshots from my videos. Say, look at this. It's right behind you. Look at this. They're all over the place. And I'm not being a dick when I say this. I'm being honest. Just honest. I have zero interest. I don't care. Myself. Possibly the people in the audience do, but I don't. I've seen these things, so I'm good. I've had them throw shit at me. I've heard them. The whole 9 yards. Right? Found the prints. I'm good. I know they're there. I know they're there. I do not know exactly where they are at all times. I probably never will, but I know they are there. They can be there at any time I feel like it, and I can't make myself more clear to them. Just leave me the F alone. I'm not into your ass. Leave me alone. All right? I just want to exist, soak up as much of the real world as I can, like you do, and rock it out. So leave me alone. In the meantime, I need to get everybody else who knows these truths, voices shared. So anyways, you guys, if you feel compelled to send me pictures, screenshots of my videos, and something behind me, thank you for your time, but just so you know, I don't have any interest myself, okay? But I'll share these here today, man. Now, here's another one. No subject for a title. Steve, greetings to you and the Brotherhood of the Round Table of Knowledge. I'm writing to give you an update on my life of knowing following my first 9-day encounter in 2021. You read that experience and one other follow-up email. As we continue to hear, once a person has an experience, they just keep coming. I live in a rural town of under 5,000 people on the west side of Washington State in the foothills of the Cascade Mountains. The Sasquatch continue to come around my house and make themselves known. I'll briefly describe the activity. In the past encounters, I've never had an intuition or sixth sense when they've been around. One night about 6 months ago, I was lying in bed around 11 p.m. My wife was sleeping. I suddenly had a negative feeling sweep over me. I wasn't frightened but alert. I said in my head, if there's anything here that is not aligned with Jesus Christ, leave. I repeated the same phrase again, and immediately something slapped the side of my house. It was loud and woke my wife. Trust me when I say that she is not a fan of cryptids. But I explained what had just happened, and the negative feeling I had disappeared. I don't know what type of cryptid slapped the house, but whatever it was listening to my thoughts. A few weeks later, I went for a hike in the foothills of the Cascade Mountains east of Greenwater. I was about 300 yards from my parking spot when I saw a attached photo of a Sasquatch tree structure along the trail. A few minutes further into the hike, I could hear small sticks cracking as multiple beings moved down the mountain above me. Granted, I don't know if it was deer or another animal, but I felt like it was a Sasquatch. I never saw them. But when the small breaks were within 50 yards, I stopped hearing the motion. I finished my hike and went home. 2 days later, they were in my house around 2 a.m. Not just at my house, but in my house. I'm normally an extremely light sleeper and awake at the drop of a needle. This night, I never woke up during this occurrence, but my wife confirmed and said they whooped outside our bedroom window. Okay, there's a little note just for me. Okay, man, gotcha. A few weeks ago, I was awake at 3 a.m. and noticed raccoons in the backyard destroying the bird feeder. I retrieved my archery bow and, stepping out onto the porch, it was dead quiet, and took a shot at one of them. I missed, and the arrow lodged with a whack into the chicken house. Seconds later, there was a growling owl hoot from the woods across the road from me, and a weird response 80 yards to my right on the other side of the road. It definitely wasn't a real owl hoot, and for the life of me, I can't remember exactly what the response sound was, other than it was very strange. I assumed it was the Sasquatch, after hearing the arrow whack, making sure everyone was okay. Minutes later, I could hear the rustle of leaves and sticks as they came around my neighbor's house and around my property in the brush. I explained what I was doing and suggested they could take any and all of these raccoons if they wanted to. No response. Weeks later, I was scouting for elk near the base of Mount Rainier, and day after day was coming across the tree breaks and even large 12-inch trees uprooted and laying across the access logging roads. I parked on one logging road to glass an opposite hillside, and as I stepped into the trees, there was loud crashing off to my right. I can only guess that it sounded about 1/4 mile away, but clear tree snaps and breaks, and then loud stomps, making the ground shake twice, with what sounded like footsteps, and it was intense. I told it or them that I was just looking for elk, and I didn't mean them any harm. It was quiet after that. A few weeks ago, we did harvest a bull elk and had a challenging first pack out. We were approximately 1 mile from the foot stomp location. It was 9 p.m., dark and snowing. I had to cross a swamp with the first load of meat and then hike 2 miles of logging roads through the forest to reach the truck. After an hour of trekking the swamp, I began the logging road hike. While catching my breath, the Sasquatch made 5 loud and fast tree knocks in the forest to my right. Exhausted, I simply asked that they leave the 2 hindquarters alone. I had left them bagged and hanging in a tree near the kill site. After that, they made no indication of being nearby. The following day, when I returned for the remaining quarters, they were still there, and I had no other interactions with the Sasquatch. Holy shit, that's lucky. That is so lucky. I personally am convinced that the human/animal cryptids were and are currently crossbred by the biblical Genesis 6 fallen angels. Melba Ketchum's study proves the human crossbreeding. The biblical account explains the fallen angel DNA, which gives the cryptids their paranormal/supernatural abilities, mind reading, frequency, and electrical control, and ability to move in the angel realm, etc. I believe the 1959 Antarctic Treaty, which the 12 major countries signed, protects the area with direct access to the part of the earth where Satan and the fallen angels reside when they are not roaming the earth. It explains why Buzz Aldrin tweeted after visiting Antarctica in December 2016, "We are all in danger. It is evil itself." He was immediately hospitalized when they flew him off of the continent. The fallen angels have been working with evil, corrupt world leaders since their fall. They are the influence and power behind all of the evil currently in the world today. Those who are benefiting and working with Satan and the fallen angels openly admit it. And with that cooperation comes earthly power, control, money, etc. It is the destruction of this global web of evil that has spawned what we witness around us today in the media, politics, entertainment, education, world finance, etc. The war of good versus evil has risen to the surface, the Great Awakening, where the world can now see who has been pulling the strings and why. What remains to be seen is how much control Satan has over the beings which he initially spawned. With so many personal experiences showing Sasquatch and even dogmen being empathetic and kind toward humans, I'm still leaning toward the belief that he doesn't fully control them, at least for now. It's certainly been proven that Jesus' name has a direct impact on cryptids, on what cryptids do or don't do. Recall the account of the man who commanded the Sasquatch on the island to show himself in Jesus' name, and the Sabbath obeyed. And the many accounts of people calling upon Jesus' name when being harassed by Sasquatch and they leave. Again, additional evidence that the cryptids are spiritual in nature, seemingly more than humans are, or at least in a different way, and are subject to the triune God's power and divinity, There's obviously rules about how they interact with humans, since there's a curious consistency to how Sabe limit their visibility to and interaction with humans globally. The exceptions, thinking of the habitations that have been documented, seem to indicate that the rules were not set and enforced by the triune God, but possibly by their own kind, since they are willing to violate the typical limitations seemingly without consequence. I continue to research and look for ways to prove whether Sabe are wholly independent in thought and decision from the fallen angels. I'm nearing the point of accepting we just don't have the ability to prove this issue and must wait until future experiences provide the evidence. We can only hope that it will be a soft disclosure and not due to a hard confrontation. Suffice it to say that everything, and I mean everything, happening today is related in some way. Wishing you all the best. You can use my name, Brett Meyer. Okay, Brett, appreciate it. Those bent trees are something else, you gotta admit. Right, you guys? The bent trees are something else. Do they interest me personally? Not really. For reasons I already explained. But, you know, like you say, everything's related in some way. When people make that statement, for me, my brain instantly wants to retort with, well, yeah, everything is. Everything cannot not be related in some way, because we're all here together, sharing this same covering of oxygen, the same what we're here. We're all here together. Every single teeny tiny minute thing is related in some way, connected. There's just no way it isn't. But anyway, the fallen angels, again, how many times have people written in? How many people have looked into it thoroughly? How many people are absolutely convinced? A lot of it makes sense to me. I am not absolutely convinced in any specific direction yet, except I know a few directions I'm convinced not to be in. That would be of the pheromone chips hanging in a branch, looking for monkeys in the rut, and selling Sasquatch expeditions. Holy shit. This channel has possibly came 10 lifetimes further than those poor bastards that are stuck in those bizarre positions in life today. But anyway, another topic for somebody else who has interest in it, not me. Appreciate you emailing in, Brett. I absolutely appreciate the time you just donated to everybody here with the time you donated to these topics. And make sure you keep sharing more, all right, man? A lot of people are going to disagree with you. A lot of people are going to agree. It doesn't really matter, though, right? Does it? We're all on our own rides. We're all on our own journeys, our own rides. Take from it what you will or leave it when it comes to other people sharing. Nobody's ramming anything down anybody's throat here. It's not possible. Because we're all here on our own free will. We can leave it any time, but we can take from items what we will or leave it. And you don't have to leave some prick comment in the comment section below demeaning somebody who wrote in. All right? If you have that feeling, keep it to yourself, because it's absolutely useless to drop that shit here. Anywhere, really, right? Now, it's titled Bigfoot. Hello, Steve. Would you be interested in something I found in the Patterson-Gimlin film? The reason I'm contacting you is you seem an honest bloke who would keep my identity secret and would take me seriously. I have extreme pareidolia and see things others cannot, and would like to point out some things. If you're willing to have a look at some pictures I'll send, this will be okay. Hope to receive a reply. Thanks for your time. Keep up the good work. Spent many hours watching you on YouTube. Cheers. You could if you want, man. You could if you want. You know what? It's not about me. This 100% is not about me. And I've made myself clear on the photos thing. The Patterson-Gimlin film, for me, I am absolutely 110% convinced that being is an authentic being that we're not familiar with. And that's good enough for me. Anything else that film's just been pulled apart, picked apart, and some people may have interest, but I honestly don't. Sorry, I'm not being insulting, I just don't. I don't know. If you want to send it in and share it with the people here, especially now that we've read your email out loud, and some people are going to go, yeah, send it. Send away. Just because I have no interest doesn't mean it needs to be kept from the people, right? Because everybody has their choice. You can choose what you want to be interested in or look at or not. Why would I not be interested? You guys already know. It's a Sasquatch. There we go. For me. Okay, moving on. Now, here's another one. Slammed the hood of the truck and caved it in. First off, I have to admit this is not my story, but what was told to me by a man who was a straight-up, no-bullshit, serious type of man, quite like yourself. He told it like it was, and if he didn't like it, well, tough titty was his expression. He could look at anyone and tell you if they were a good person or not. He had a bullshit detector that was off the charts. See, he didn't have the creativity for bedtime stories, but could tell you facts about just about anything. He could have been a historian with his recall memory of knowledge of the East Coast and its wildlife. So when he told me of his encounter, I had no doubts what he was saying was the truth. He worked for a company for 35 years, delivering parts of stores in the upper region of East Coast from Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Vermont every night. He had the longest and hardest route of all the drivers because others refused to drive it because of encounters and rumors from that route. Regardless of how much the company would offer to pay them, my father didn't believe in boogeyman stories, and so it became his route. It would be this route that made him question everything. He was a workhorse, part because of his legendary stubbornness, and because getting anyone to cover was impossible. Even when he came down with walking pneumonia several times and went against doctor's orders to stay home and get better. In the winter of '94, he had walking pneumonia and no one would cover. As usual, so he went to work. Driving through the mountains before the plows had its own challenges, and he had to make it to Newport, Vermont, for his nightly delivery. He was making good time and was close to the Willoughby State Park until a herd of caribou ran out in front of him. He slammed on the brakes and the straight truck didn't stop, hitting one of the caribou and lodging it under the front of the truck. He waited for the herd to pass and opened his door to get out, but something slammed hard on the driver's side of the truck, enough to tilt the entire truck. He looked out his side mirror, but only saw part of something dark and hairy move around the back, thinking it was just another caribou. He attempted to get out again, when another slam came from the opposite side, closer to the passenger door, enough to tilt the truck again. He shut his door and locked it. He was trying to understand what he was looking at, slamming into the truck, through the side mirror. He then noticed that he was surrounded by glowing eyes standing just in the tree line. They were looking at him square in the eye, and his truck was several feet off the ground. He figured they had to be 10 to 12 feet tall. The slamming continued from all sides as more joined and were rocking the truck violently. You couldn't see the ones in the back clearly, just massive, hairy, and bipedal. It stopped when you heard a roar, and in his words, this bub walked out in 2 or 3 steps. The snow that would be up to my waist was just above his knees. He grabbed the front and, lifting it like it was nothing, then slammed the hood with its fist, caused the front tire to blow out and the hood to cave in at least 4 to 5 inches, roared, and walked off with the caribou that was lodged under the truck. Under the truck. The rest of them ran off, leaving my dad to contemplate his entire life choices because making sense of it just wasn't happening. He called his boss to let him know he wouldn't be finishing his route, and what happened? His boss was uncomfortably casual about it all. My dad had to sit on the side of a mountain for 6 hours before anyone would reach him, suffering from walking pneumonia and dealing with being harassed by random slamming on the truck from the mountain men. He started screaming and cussing at them to knock their shit off. They would retreat, only to return a while later. He said he had never been so happy to see the lights of the plows and the tow truck. The tow truck driver was unnerved by all the tracks in the snow and the damage to the truck. They all spoke about it, swapped stories, then quickly got out of there. He had several other times where he ran across him, but it didn't deter him from doing his job. Providing for his children meant more to him than a bunch of hairy men in the mountains. He figured later on that he effed up their hunt, and it was his own fault. His boss and the CEOs of the company, which was unusual, were waiting for him when he returned back with the mangled truck. He filled out an accident form and had to submit to a drug test, which he passed. They then told him to never speak of it to anyone, that it never happened. He told them all they could all kiss his American red ass, and walked out. He then waited for the call that he would be fired. His boss called him, told him he was getting a week paid off. He showed up to pick up his paycheck the next day and saw his work truck being dismantled and towed away.
He said the towing company trucks weren't the ones that his company used and didn't have a name placard or VIN numbers on their trucks. He said the whole thing was very strange. That sounds familiar. I may have read this. That part about the truck being dismantled, I've heard that before. I don't know if it was this exact email or not. I don't think so, but I heard that. That rings an absolute bell. He was forced to get the jab at the beginning of this year to keep his job or be forced into retirement 6 months before turning 65. He took the jab and was rushed by ambulance that night and died. You motherfuckers. You fucking sacks of shit. Sorry about the language, but sometimes I don't give a shit. Man, oh man, I hope payback comes in this lifetime. Oh, it makes me mad. He is the man to which I compare all men. None have ever come close. Guess I'm just stubborn that way. I miss him every day on our daily long talks about everything and nothing. The best are taken too soon, and the evil ones seem to last forever. Thank you for sharing my father's encounter. I know he wouldn't give a damn who knew his name. Paul, mine is Callie. Just for you, Steve. Yeah, no doubt, man. I would have hit it off with your dad without a doubt. I'm sorry for his passing, and it makes me very, very frustrated, very angry. And I'll just bite my lip right now. We'll have more on that one day, and another time on another channel. Well, that makes me mad. All right, what do we got? I'm going to go down the list to get back to where some people were waiting a long time. And I think before I went on this last adventure, I made the plan of reading from recent emails in, and then the next day to read from past emails, and the next day to read replies and recent emails that may be directly related to the recent emails the day prior. If that made any sense. But I think that's a good plan. So, where are we? All right, here's another one. This person's been waiting a little while, I think. I don't know what the date is on this. March 29th. Combining Knowledge is the title of this email. Steve, you mentioned recently that you might compile all of Edgar's experiences in one spot. I think that's a phenomenal idea, especially for newcomers to your channel. And I would also encourage you to combine all of the Owlman's contributions, as well as those indigenous peoples who had knowledge from their elders, such as Mr. Ash. Mr. Ash, I'm looking forward to hearing more from Mr. Ash on the previous names just mentioned. I know with your volume of emails and everything else you have on your plate, you may not have time for this right now, and that's certainly understandable. Just suggesting it because your channel and your own words of wisdom have done more to help victims than any other source. Thanks for those kind words. After seeing the Patterson-Gimlin footage and realizing I was looking at a living, breathing being that was definitely not an ape, I spent over a dozen years trying to learn about them. I would not call it researching. I was just trying to fill in as many of the pieces to my puzzle as I could. But the more I found, the bigger the puzzle became. The submissions to your channel have filled in many of my puzzle pieces and continue to do so. Over those years of searching, I had a number of frightening nighttime encounters, as well as multiple daytime visual encounters. The first visual was the furthest away, but it scared the hell out of me. Because it was a large adult, and even at over 200 yards, it was unbelievably menacing. Palpably so. It rattled me. I also eventually had visuals with juveniles and sub-adults. I no longer seek these peoples. Thankfully, I didn't have anything really frightening happen to me like you did when you were seeking them, but I had a telepathic experience that left me realizing seeking them so seriously was both intrusive and potentially dangerous. I agree. I made my peace and told them I would seek them no longer. They still occasionally come near where I live, but right now they keep their visits very subtle, and I hope it stays that way. Prayers and blessings to you and Sarah and all your critters, and prayers for the fate of Canada and the U.S., and I hope everyone is praying for the people everywhere who are victims of their governments. Amen. P.S. Waking up at 3 a.m. is an indication you are being visited by the spirit world. I can speak from experiences, as I have had my own experiences with it. It's my reality, whether anyone chooses to believe that or not. That's on them, not me. And email. Appreciate your email, man. Absolutely appreciate it. I'm glad you've come. Sounds like you've come a long way, right? Come a long way, like a lot of people have here Speaking of lights, we had a glowing small light in our bedroom upper corner last night. Go figure. Now, let's get another one heard while I'm here. I got shit to do. I'm going to get to it. Hi, Steve. First off, I enjoy your channel. Keep it going. Okay, I don't claim to be some huge outdoorsman, but I do know what animals inhabit the woods and forests of the east central Ohio and the sounds they make. My encounter is different from most that you read, and but I never saw anything. This happened 10 to 12 years ago, 2010, 2012-ish. And in the same week, I was out whitetail hunting during our shotgun season in the same area my buddies and I go to every year since we were in high school. I'm 58 now, so I was mid-40s when this happened. It was mid-afternoon and a fairly sunny day. I was heading into a spot for my evening sit. I, being the increasingly lazy middle-ager that I was, I would shortcut through a large stand of white pines to get to my spot faster and quieter. About halfway to my spot, I decided to sit down and have a smoke in the pines before I got on stand. We can argue that habit and hunting in another email. Hey man, if they can smell your armpit, they can smell smoke, they can smell anything. It's all wind direction. I don't give a shit what anybody does while they're hunting. I'm sitting smoking my cigarette, enjoying the warm temperature, when I hear something that has stuck with me to this day. You know how when you're in the wood and you hear something, you just know how far or close it is, just by the sound? Well, this is very close. I guess 30 to 40 feet. That's real close. My point is, it was close, and it came from the direction I just came from, so it was just to the right of me. The sound was not a scream like so many describe. It was one single, huh? But it was so deep and baritone, it's like I could feel it. I can only compare it to a lighthouse horn. Just not that loud, just deep in tone. I immediately turned to see what it was, and there was nothing there. I looked all through the thin trees, but there was nothing. Now, I don't know how long it took me to turn my head in that direction, but it couldn't have even been 1 second. Yet there was nothing to be seen, and I didn't hear anything run off. Nothing is that fast. Needless to say, I was a bit freaked out, but I continued on my stand and finished the day eventless. The second encounter was the same week, only 2 to 3 miles down another road, in an area I've always wanted to scout. It being Saturday, and the last day of hunting for me, I decided to walk out on a four-wheeler trail to see where it went and find out if I should give the area any time in the summer when I scout for upcoming season. I walked about a mile down the track slowly and came to a rise where I again decided to take a knee, smoke a cigarette, and watch this large bowl in front of me. After a few minutes, I noticed out of the corner of my eye a sizable stump. I'm looking ahead, but it's 90 degrees off to my left. I remember thinking, man, that's a big stump. And turned to look at it, but there was nothing there. I looked around, there was nothing in the area that big. Again, the first occurrence of the week was still fresh in my head, so I decided right then my season was over. I walked back out quicker than I walked in. I don't know what I experienced that week. Nothing, something, I don't know. And I never told my buddies about it until this past year, half expecting to become the year's joke. But neither of them doubted me and even got curious about it and asked a few questions. Made me ask if they ever had anything weird happen. Probably did, or told to them by somebody they trust. But they just steered the conversation in a different direction. I will say this last season, 2021, was the first time I went back to the spot in the pines, and I'll admit I was still a bit freaked out. No doubt. You guys watched the video when I went back to the stand, remember, a couple springs ago? First time for me in years, and still freaked me out. Well, that's my story. I know it's not all that exciting, but it happened. Believe me or not, I don't really care. The fact is, the only opinions I was concerned about was that of my brother and my buddy. The two guys I've been hunting in those woods with for going on 40 years. They either believed me or they didn't, but they didn't judge me. And to me, that's a good buddy. Solid as rock. One more thing, the area I hunt is not far from where the pompous fat money taker got his start, so there is some Sasquatch history here. Use my name if you want. They call me Nash. Keep bringing the information. I'm learning along with you. Good health to you and Sarah and Nash. Okay, man, appreciate it. And you're not alone. And like I tell everybody who listens to this flavor email, you got to think about the impact the sound has, right? The sounds that people are hearing, even with a high-power rifle in their hands, the sounds are so freaking intimidating. It's absolutely off the chart, and I don't think too many people can. I don't think it's possible that somebody could actually write in and make every one of you feel what they felt while experiencing these sounds, right? All I can do is keep sharing. And I don't think I've had that. Yeah, the sounds I heard were more like, holy shit, for me reaction. Like the first time I heard one, when I was looking for them intentionally, and it was a 3-toned woo, like I can't, that's the thing, is I can't mimic it. I can call in packs of wolves with my mouth easy, done it dozens of times. I can call in moose with just my mouth. I can mimic a lot. Moose is upwards of an 1,800-pound animal. I can mimic it. But I can't mimic that sound that I heard. But I haven't heard the sound that vibrates your inner core. I don't want to either. One time, also, again, in the early stages of me looking for these things intentionally, I was not too far from a place called Tanquil Lake, which is north of Pemberton and ground zero for a lot of shit. And I was looking intentionally, and I got to the end of a deactivated logging road, which would have put me between Tanquil Lake and, oh my gosh, you go up the Hurley halfway, hang a right. What's that? You guys who are familiar listening, you know where I'm talking about. Hang a right into that access logging road where the track ski guys, the people come and get the skiers and they stay there. Hope Creek. So this would have been between Tanquil Lake and Hope Creek. And I'm sitting on my quad, my Yamaha 450 Grizzly, I think it was, and the engine's idling, and I could hear a boom, 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 like it sounded at that time like a big boulder was being slammed into the ground in the forest floor, right just on an angle downhill from me, and I put that sound from me at maybe 100 yards, possibly 100 yards away. But I heard that absolutely clearly over top of my quad idling. I'm sitting on it. But that's still, I didn't feel the ground. Well, the ground could have been shaking. I don't know. I was on a vibrating quad. But that made me turn around and book it out of there. And then, years later, recently, another man would inform me that a man that he knew basically took food to these beings in that exact same location for a long time, and he had clear Polaroids of them. And I had a few other people that were going on the search for those Polaroids, and I don't know what happened there. As usual, right? The pictures don't show up or they've disappeared. Maybe they're still in circulation. Maybe the relation to the man who died and left his trailer with the photos in it, maybe they got it, maybe they didn't. I don't know. I'll have to look into that one day. Or maybe they're listening now and they'll share that with me, but that's a bit of a babble about my own experiences with sounds. But anyway, like I said earlier, when somebody hears a sound in the forest and it shakes them to the core enough to even actually go out and find a YouTube channel and email address and write to the people about it, you got to think about how significant those sounds are, right? They really leave an impression on people. Anyway, yeah, where people got their start and started. You know what? It's kind of funny. At this point of the game, just imagine the cake I could make if I started booking Sasquatch expeditions. I'll tell you guys right now, every single one of you, if you ever see me even half suggesting that I will take your money to guide you on a Sasquatch expedition, you have absolute permission to kick me in the nuts as hard as you can the second you see me in public anywhere. Because I deserve it. Later.
Huh? Now I wait to see what the hell we're doing. the one we called up, is it?
Man, that'd take a while. And this is how you come down.